Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to Kappa SEO's Blogging 101 workshop. As some of you already know, my name is Joey Donovan Guido, and I'll be your host for the next 90 minutes talking all about blogging. So far, it looks like, Jeff, we've got you on the line. Welcome again to another workshop. Hoping this one works better for you and you don't get cut off. But I'm glad to have you back. We've got a couple more people that should be joining us, but we're going to go ahead and get started because it's 1 o'clock. And Jeff, one thing to know, similar to last time, in the upper left-hand corner of your screen is going to be kind of like a chat bubble, okay, or a thought bubble. Go ahead and click on that. And then the right side of your screen should give you a region where you can go ahead and chat with me. All right, I'm going to leave this live for the entire 90 minutes. We've got a small crowd today of just 3 participants, and I want to make sure that we're giving everyone ample opportunity to ask whatever questions you might have as we move along through the workshop. Okay. So again, just click on that gray thought bubble in the upper left-hand corner. And when you want to chat, you should see in the lower right-hand corner your cursor blinking. And that's where you'll click into that region and ask whatever questions you might have. Okay. So first of all, I'd like to start off with the question, what is the purpose of a blog? And if any of the participants would like to chat in their interpretation of what a blog is, that would be awesome. There is no right or wrong answer, just trying to get a gauge on how you guys feel about blogs and also what your understanding is of them from where you guys are currently at. And when you guys go ahead and type that, I will move forward with my own definition. So blog is very interesting. I started blogging back in 2007. And I started blogging as a dad blogger. That was my introduction into this medium. For me, I was a new transplant to Wisconsin. I had a newborn child as well as a 2.5-year-old. And as a dad, I was kind of having trouble finding support. So I just started creating a blog to support myself and other dads that were having similar problems. And so essentially, in a nutshell, what a blog is, it is a way to develop relationships. Okay, and this is true whether you're a blogger with a specific point of view on a very specific topic or a general topic, or if you're a small, medium, or large-sized business, it's an opportunity for you to connect with your customers, with your vendors, and the like. All right. Oftentimes, and this is less so now, but companies that I have consulted with have actually looked at a blog as a direct way to solicit business. And although a blog, especially in the long run, can bring you business, it's different than, let's say, a television spot or a special that you're running on Facebook. It's very what they call long tail. At least that's the philosophy behind a blog. It's really developed the relationship. And once that relationship is developed, say, let's take me, for instance, I do search engine optimization, blogging, and web design. So through my blog, I've created relationships where when somebody needs one of my services, I'm going to be top of mind for them. And then they'll give me a call. And business may or may not happen, but it's not one of those instant things. It's more of a long-term investment, just like a real relationship. Okay, the only difference here is that we're creating a relationship virtually, which is kind of different than the things we grew up with. So Jeff, it's still you and me. I hope you're doing okay there. But let's move on to how to write a blog post. Okay, and again, if you have questions, please just put it in the chat box and I'll be happy to answer. And for this, let's take a look at the Kappa SEO website. and we will go over to the blog. So this is the blog I actually published this morning, and I'm on WordPress. First of all, I want to let you guys all know all the work that we'll be doing today is actually on WordPress, okay? If you're using something different like Blogger or something, you're going to find a very similar setup. But one of my goals today is to get you as comfortable as possible with the format of blogging, and also just with the thought of blogging, which can be kind of intimidating. So just a quick overview. Here are some blogs on Cup SEO, Fresh Brewed Customer Spotlight, On Campus College Planning. All right. This kind of just rolls blog after blog after blog. Here's another one about social media and SEO. Here's one about blogging tips, which you guys may or may not have read yet, but it's a good one. It's short, but very important. So for our purposes today, let's take a look at this blog post. All right, it's a little bit longer form than the others I was showing you. This one is titled Ultimate User Experience, UX Profiles, Dollar Shave Club. So let's take a look of the hierarchy of how to write a good blog post. To begin, we've got our title or our headline, which is this guy right up here. All right. Titles can be a stress point for a lot of new writers or individuals who don't really feel comfortable with their writing skills, even though they might be very good. So there's a little bit of a process or a trick that I call the 3 C's that you'll want to incorporate into your headlines. The first C is clear. Make sure that your headline is clear about what is actually in your blog post, okay? We don't want smoke and mirrors here. We want to actually tell somebody, here's the pain point that I'm addressing, or possibly here's a question that I'm answering, or a problem that I'm solving. All right, so what we're really doing in that is being clear about what it's about and what the value is that we're delivering in the blog post. And when we start talking about value, the second C comes into play, which is compelling. All right, we want our blog title to be compelling. I often refer to this as making an emotional connection to the reader, or simply engaging with them in a way that makes sense to them. In this case, user experience is something I get a lot of questions about from customers, friends, colleagues. So I've actually written quite a few user experience blog posts. So I already know I've got some value built into it because these questions come to me so often in the real world. And Jeff, I just want to check in with you super quick. If you can just give me an okay, if your connection is good, and that if you can hear me clearly. And once we move beyond the headline, these principles are going to be very similar in the body or the text itself, right, of your blog post. And I chose this one because it runs on a little bit on the long side, so it's got a lot of really good examples in it. So your text, the question I get most often is, Joey, what the heck am I going to write about? You wouldn't believe the amount of professionals who are experts at what they do, who simply feel like they have nothing to say. It's kind of a normal phenomenon because what happens is we live in our world all the time. And we feel like everybody must know all the best practices, all of the ins and outs of our industry like we do. And that's simply not the case. My wife is a massage therapist, and she just started blogging. And she said this to me, Joey, what the heck do I write about? And we started talking about it, and all of a sudden we had like 20 different blog posts, but only after she realized that the things that seem common to her are talking points for her audience. Okay, so in essence, what you're going to want to talk about here is what you know about, what's important to you, what you're passionate about, what you want to help people with or educate people about. It all comes down to how much value you're giving. All right. So as far as style, that's really up to you. The style of your blog or the tone is going to, in many ways, be contingent on, okay, just your particular personality or your business's branding personality, and also what you're comfortable with. For me, I like to be a little bit more laid back, a little bit more conversational and friendly. But of course, if you're a law office, that might be a very different type of positioning you need to put out there with your blog. Okay. So any questions so far? All right, well, if you've got them, shoot them my way. Otherwise, we will move on. So we're still going to be dissecting the same blog post. Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit more about content creation later, but there is a really easy step-by-step process to get you started working and writing blog posts right away. So I'll share them with you. These are also going to be in the complimentary Blogging 101 ebook that you guys will receive. I will actually be emailing that to you after the workshop. There'll be a link to actually go ahead and get that ebook. All right. So there'll be a little bit more detail in that about it. But how to write a blog post. The first thing you're going to need to do, and this may sound completely silly, is you're going to need to pick your topic. Okay. And we're going to talk later about how to actually pick multiple topics all at once and start to roll out what we call a blog proposal, okay, or a blog campaign. So first thing is pick your topic in advance of sitting down to write it. Because as all of us know, if we're under the gun, under pressure, it's really hard to think sometimes. So if we sit down in advance and think about what's my title going to be, what's my topic going to be, maybe I write a couple of sentences about it. When I actually carve out time to write the blog post, it's going to be a lot easier. All right. We already talked about creating a good, clear title. We talked about making your content valuable to your readers. This is often referred to as making your content rich or relevant. All right. And essentially, it's just making it as a high value proposition as possible. And you want to position yourself as the expert, the thought leader. You don't really, in a blog, it's not advisable to be just sharing other people's ideas or other people's blog posts. But if you have an opinion on one, it's certainly a good idea to highlight somebody else's work and then give your opinion on it. All right, make it original. Put your thoughts and your experience into that. You're also going to want to add at least one engaging image. And you guys can see here, I've got some original art, very basic, very minimalist, UX for user experience. And as we scroll down, I've got some screenshots of the Dollar Shave Club, which is what this entire blog post is about. It's about the user experience of Dollar Shave Club. One side note here on the images is that we want to make sure we're optimizing them, okay? These images, when you create them, they might be image, it might say 12386.jpg, okay, which means nothing to Google. But if we name it, in this case, I've got user experience and UX in the name of each of my images, it gives Google a very clear inclination as to what I'm talking about. So, but just remember, you want to include an engaging image, something that's aesthetically pleasing, something that's original. We don't want to be pulling images off of Google and just using them. We want to make sure that we're validly using them. There are a couple apps out there that make this super easy. One is called Over, O-V-E-R, and that's available for Android and iPhones. It's got a lot of art in it that you can use once you make the initial purchase of the app, which is just a few dollars. You can use all the art for free. You can create your own art if you have the inclination. And they also give you access to hundreds of images that are searchable, so you can actually find something that's meaningful to your topic, and you don't have to worry about plunking down like 10 bucks every time you need an image for your blog. Okay? So we've got some engaging imagery. We've got a headline that fulfills the 3 C's. It's clear, it's compelling, and it's concise. Now for your headline, there is a fourth C, and that's creative. All right, and this is, I leave this one out because if you don't feel like you're creative, or if you feel pressure to be creative, we don't want to put that on you. We want to make sure that you're getting this done and that your stress level is low. All right. Also in your headline here, you guys will see we've got some search engine optimization, which in a nutshell is I'm optimizing the headline to tell Google these are the keywords to be aware of that this particular blog post is about. In this case, it's user experience, and it's also the acronym UX. Those are 2 phrases that people search for to learn about user experience. All right. So while we're on the topic of SEO, let's just do a quick dissection of this particular blog post so you can kind of see what I'm talking about when it comes to search engine optimization. All right, so we've got the 2 keywords in the headline up here. Each of these images, this one, as well as all of these guys, all have some iteration of one or both of those keyword phrases. All right, and what that does is that lets Google know many times, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times in my imagery, it lets Google know exactly what this blog post is about. And all that means it's going to make it a heck of a lot easier for people searching for user experience help to find my blog post. Okay? And we also want to make sure that we're including these same keywords in the body of our blog. And if we've got any other things, like here we've got what's called an H3 or a header 3, which is a headline, but a smaller headline than an H1. Kind of got these bleeding through the entire blog post. And in addition to helping the human eye differentiate what each section is about, this also helps Google understand, hey, this blog is really seriously about UX. And you guys can see here I've included the acronym in each of my H3s. Any questions so far, guys? So what I'm going to do next is go into what's called the editor side of my blog. All right. This is where you can write your content, where you can edit your content and set it up to actually publish it. All right, so what we're looking at here is the same blog post that we were just examining, okay? So again, here's what it looks like on the front end, or to the user, right, to the visitor on your website. This is actually what it looks like to me when I create it, okay? So I want to get you guys comfortable quickly just with the dashboard back here that you will see inside of blog post creation. All right. So on the left-hand side here, guys, is your navigation, which does a ton of stuff. It allows you to get into your media. So in my case, I'll give you guys a quick look. There's a ton of photography in here that I have uploaded over time. Okay. And you can look at analytics in here. My analytics are right here. They're called site stats. We can look at blog post pages. We can look at regular web pages back here if it's a WordPress website as well. Okay. And now if we turn our attention to this side, what I've just highlighted, that's actually the headline for my blog post. All right. So you guys can see here, this is what it looks like on my blog. Ultimate User Experience Profiles, Dollar Shave Club. And this is where I enter that on the editor side. When I put that in there, that tells WordPress and it tells Google, hey, everybody, this is my H1 or my main primary headline for this blog post. Okay. Right below that, we have got a little bit of a dashboard nav that's kind of similar to the user experience you might have in Microsoft Word. Or if you're a Mac person, in Pages. It's going to give you a very similar kind of feel. Okay? So what we're looking at here is bold, ital, strike through. This guy here, if you just hover over it, you're going to see there's an explanation that pops up. Bulleted lists, numerical lists. If you want to make a block quote, which treats your copy a very certain way. All the standard justification ideas here. Now this little chain link, some of you may already know what this is, but this is how we insert a link, okay? So to give you an idea of that, if I come all the way down to the bottom of my blog post, I've got a text link down here. And I happen to like putting my text links in blue. They're easy to identify, and they differentiate it from the black text everywhere else, right? So if I click on this, you'll now see that these two buttons up here have become live, all right? Self-explanatory, but let's click on here and take a look at what happens. And let me do that again just to show you guys. I'm clicking on the chain link. And right here is where I can place whatever URL that I am interested in sharing, whether it's to a different page on my own website or something, a different URL that goes to a different website. I cut it and I paste it right in here. All right. I can give it a title, but that's not necessary. That's why it's not here. And this little button here, open link in a new window. This is something that is always a good idea to click on if you're leading somebody away from your website. All right, if you're staying on your website but sending them to a different page, no problem, leave it unclicked. But going to a different website, click it, because then what happens is your website doesn't go away. And the idea behind this is that if someone's on my website and I want to share information, I want them to be able to see it easily, but I don't want my website to be gone because now they've got to actually take an action and either hit the back button or re-enter my URL, which they may or may not do. And if they don't do it, I've lost them, which is going to stop me, obviously, from continuing developing that relationship. All right, so again, if you are leading somebody off of your website or your blog, click on this, and then down here you'll click Update, and you're all done. Okay. What happens down here is this is just some different titles that I've used in the past, or some different URLs that, for easy access, if there's something that I use consistently to link to, I can just pop on one of these, and it will enter the link for me. So we're going to leave that spot. And so we were just in Insert Link. Right next to it is Remove Link. So in that case, it's exactly what it sounds like. It would remove the link I have down here on this text link if I clicked on this. So I'm not going to do that, okay? Over here, spell check, proofreading. This is the toggle switch, which either removes or adds the secondary nav down here. Okay, and probably one of the most important things I can show you guys is this spot right here where it says paragraph. Okay, what you'll notice is if I'm on this part of my blog, it says paragraph. But let's say for some reason I wanted to change this, right? I could make it bold. I could make it ital. But let's say I wanted to change this into something bigger, like an H2. That's what this drop-down menu is for. Okay, paragraph is your default text size. But if I made this an H2, you're going to see it gets considerably bigger, and it will look considerably larger on the live site as well. Okay, and this, as you guys can see, if I highlight this guy here, now this says H3. So this entire line gets coded to the H3 heading just by my clicking this. And if for some reason I wanted it to be a little smaller, but still more prominent, I can click an H4 or an H5, and these usually get ridiculously small. H3 is always the best choice if you have multiple subheadlines like I do on this blog post. Let's just switch to the front end for a second. One is that they're large enough to identify, hey, here's a break in the action, here's a shift in my thinking. In case this is important to you, you might want to read it. It's an identifier. With the human eye, and also Google allows us to use multiple H3s on the page. Okay, it does not penalize us for it. It recognizes and accepts that, hey, a lot of blog posts may have more than one headline, but they better be H3s, not H2s or H1s, because that confuses me. That is literally what Google says. Okay, so when you're making what I call, in this case, subheadlines, you'll want to make sure that they're H3s here. And guys, I want to make sure that you're not too worried about retaining everything I'm saying right now. It's more about just making sure that you get a good understanding and up your comfort level. This is the kind of thing that when you're in there and you feel comfortable, you're going to mess around, you're going to test things, you're going to run into some roadblocks, you're going to overcome them, and some things are going to be super easy, okay? But it's really just a matter of getting in there and doing it. So no stress, okay? So let's talk for a minute about this part of your editor, okay? And I've got some fancy things in here that you guys may not want to use right away. Things like forms. I use something called Ninja Forms, which is a WordPress plugin. I also sometimes split test pages. Okay, this is something that sometimes we'll do on a blog, but usually do on a more traditional web page. All right. And depending on how your blog is set up, you may or may not have this featured image tab. This is a really nice tab to have if you feel like you are technically challenged, which a lot of us do feel. All right. This kind of takes the guesswork out of putting an image in. And in this case, if I click on it, it brings me to my media library. I can pick whatever I want to upload, okay? And in this case, let's say it was this. As soon as I highlight it, I get all my information. And then I would click on Set Featured Image, and it literally drops it in, sizes it, always puts it in the same spot. It kind of takes all the legwork out of it for you, okay? So that's what Featured Image does. If you don't have this built into your blog, it's something that's pretty easy to add. And again, if you're not technologically savvy, talk to your web developer and say, hey, I want to add a featured image option on my editor screen. And if they scratch their head and say, hey, what the heck are you talking about? You can always call Cuppa SEO. This is something that takes us very little time, so your cost would be very low to add something like that. Or any of these things, the split testing or the Ninja Forms, very low maintenance for us to handle for you. So now we're going to float our way all the way up to the top. And it's important to keep in mind that your edit screen may look a little different than mine, okay? It's going to have the same functionality. It's going to have the same choices, at least the same main choices, but they might be in a different order, okay? That's normal. That's all contingent on the WordPress theme you're using. So let's talk about tags and categories. Tags and categories live over here, okay? And right above it is my categories. And let's take a break from the computer screen and have a little bit more human interaction while we talk about tags and categories. So, does anybody know the difference between tags and categories? Or do you think you know? And if you do, feel free to chat. Anybody who's joined in late, if you're not sure how to chat, there is a button in the upper left-hand corner of your screen that kind of looks like a dialogue button or a thought bubble, okay? Go ahead and click on that, and that should open up a panel on the right-hand side of your screen. And you can go ahead and type right into the bottom of that region to ask questions, to chime in, whatever it is that you'd like to share. So, tags and categories are two instrumental components of a blog. They're also very confusing to people. So let's unconfuse them, okay? And let's start off with a tag. A tag is something that is strictly for Google and the other search engines to look at, okay? They're not meant for the human eye. What a tag does is it literally tags your blog post saying, hey, Google, UX and user experience are two keyword phrases that I am using on this blog post that you need to pay attention to. It's kind of highlighting in another way, saying, hey, this is what I want to get found for. That's what a tag does, okay? So the thing is, though whatever tags you use need to be keywords that you're using in your headline, in your imagery, like we talked about. Also in the content, right? The copy of the blog, right? Whatever you're writing about, any text links. These are all areas that you can add in those keyword phrases, and then you also add them to your tags region on the edit screen. And again, you guys can see that that's right here. I could enter anything I want here. I could put SEO, and then I would just click add. All right, and as you can see, it pops it right in there. But this is not one of the main topics of this blog post. And you see it gives you different iterations of things. As you use them, it remembers. Okay, so for these purposes, we are going to click the X. Makes it super easy to get rid of something that you've made a mistake on. The X, and now it's gone. But I do want my tags to be user experience, UX, and web design, okay? So again, tags are for the search engines. Categories, on the other hand, are for the human eye, all right? And there's these guys up here. And these are for when somebody's actually on your website. You want to give them bucket-sized categories that are somewhat broad, that they might have more of an interest in exploring. So let's say somebody is on my website and they read my user experience blog post. And they say, well, that was really good. I wonder if Joey wrote anything else about user experience. Right over here, we've got all of my categories. All right, and of course, one of them is user experience. So now when I click on this, it's going to show you a listing of every single blog post I have written that I have added the category of user experience to. And you see it shows snippets, like 3-line, 2-line snippets. All right, and this goes on for a little while. Like I mentioned, I have written quite a few blog posts about user experience. So in the editor, all you have to do is click on where you want, which buckets you want to put your blog post into. All right. So we've got a question. Let's do a little pause here. We've got a question from Peg. Hey, Peg. Peg's computer had some trouble, so she's just wondering if WordPress is the platform that I create my blog, and the answer is yes. It is, and it's what quite a few people use to blog at this juncture, whether they have just a standard blog or if they have a blog attached to their website. So Peg, in my case, what's happening with my website is that and let me show you this also. This is the Cuppa SEO website, and it's a WordPress website. Okay, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to go there. Looks and acts just like a normal website, but it's coded in WordPress, in a WordPress theme. And you can see right over here, my blog is one of the subpages of my main website. Okay, and that's what you see here. So yes, and please, Peg, I'm glad that you found the comments button. If you have other questions or anybody else has questions, feel free as we continue the workshop just to let me know, and I will address them as quickly as I can. So, but Peg, I am glad you made it. Hopefully you're having an okay connection now. So, we were talking about categories. So let's go back to that just for a moment. And Peg, we're also, right now, we are in what's called the editor screen, or the edit screen of one of my blog posts. All right, and we're looking at categories here. So you see, guys, I've picked 3 categories that I wanted to put this particular blog post into, or 3 buckets. Both tags and categories, you're not going to want to pick more than like 5 tops. All right, and the reason for that is if you've got more than 5 keywords down here in your tags, it becomes too dispersed. It becomes too much, and Google starts to say, well, what is this blog post really about? How can it be about 10 things? So pick and choose the most important topics and put those in tags, and the same here in categories. And the reason for that is if somebody's kind of having a good time and kind of, reading some different blog posts of mine, we don't want them seeing the same exact selection in every single category. Because then they're like, well, why are these categories here to begin with? They're not giving me any differentiation, any way to slice up the content so I get what I want. If I want to learn about SEO, that's what I want in the SEO category. If it's SEO and I talk a little bit about social media, that's okay. I can talk about SEO and social media. But if it's about SEO and a little bit about social, a little bit about networking, a little bit about branding, all of a sudden it becomes too much. Let's pick the main topics. So anybody has questions about tags or categories, let me know. But essentially, one more time, we're going to review this. Categories are for the human eye. Tags are for the search engines. Okay? And oftentimes, you might use the same exact keyword phrase, like user experience in your tag, and then user experience for your category. That's okay. Just know that it's talking to different things. Okay? So the next question, or the next topic I'd like to address, is blog post frequency and blog post length. And it's a question I receive quite often, and it's a good question, because if you haven't blogged before, it's kind of impossible to know how often should I blog. And how long should these things be? And the answer to both of these questions, to a large degree, is it depends. So I'm sorry there's no specific finite answer, but let me explain why it depends, okay? And let's talk first about blog post length. Depending on who you are, what your writing style is, and who your audience is, the length of your blog is going to change, okay? One of my customers is a tech company. They sell very high-end, very complicated software. When I write a blog post for them, it's usually between 1,500 and 2,500 words. This is what's often called long-form blog post, or sometimes referred to as big rock content. It's kind of a fun way to describe it. And that works for that particular customer. The audience that comes to their website looking for help on this topic is expecting depth, expecting us to go deeper than a normal person might want to write about, okay? And we're okay with that because we're experts at it, right? Like we talked about earlier, we're talking about something that we are an expert at, and then giving it to somebody in a format that they can understand and learn from. So that being said, I have quite a few customers that their readers would absolutely hate a 1,500 word long blog post. So for them, typically they're between 400 and 600 words. And I would say if you're struggling like with, well, where do I start? I need a definite number to start with. If you're a very literal person, start with 500 words. That is still a very good benchmark to shoot for. It's not too long, it's not too short. It takes somebody anywhere between 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to read it. So in the world of short attention spans and constant interruptions, there's a better chance that that 500 word post is going to get read as opposed to that 2,500 word post, right? But let me show you guys something, because if you write very succinctly, or if you write a blog post and it's only 200 words long, that's okay too. It won't have as much value to the search engines, okay? Think of it more like a snack as opposed to a meal. But like my English teacher, Miss Krebs, used to say, anything is better than a zero. And if all you can handle right now, whether it's time-wise or just content-wise, is writing a 200 word blog post, then write it. Because that's a heck of a lot better than no blog post at all. All right? It's really about your style and what you get comfortable in as you get on track after you've written a few blog posts. So to give you an example, and I fall into this issue often because sometimes I have more time than others. My customers always come first, and I don't always have time to write a blog post that's like the one I showed you here with the Dollar Shave Club. This one's a little bit on the longer side, right? So I do Q&As sometimes, like I did here with Mr. Tom Cleese. Guest bloggers, this is actually somebody who works for Cup SEO. He's one of my writers, Andy Brown. But if you've got people, if you have a staff who are good writers, have them write some stuff. You can take it off your plate. But what I wanted to show you guys is this blog post, which is what I call a bleat, okay? And down here it tells you what a bleat is, but a bleat essentially is a marriage between a blog post and a tweet, okay? And you can see it's super short, but don't be fooled, because it does take a little bit of time to get something succinctly into this short span of space, okay? With a bleat, you're looking to get a total character count of 420 characters or less. All right, that includes spaces and that includes your title up here. So But you see on my site, I've got things that are 420 characters. I have some posts that are 1,000+ words. So next, let's talk a little bit about blog post frequency, okay? So there are some very good research here about how often somebody should blog. But in addition to the research, I've tested this over the years, usually on my own website. So if it succeeds, great. But if it's a test that fails, it's on me, it's on my website. Nobody else is my test, okay? So frequency. The very best amount of times to blog per week for most businesses is 3 times. Yes, you heard that right, 3 times, okay? So probably the first thought in your head is, how the heck am I gonna find time to blog 3 times a week, Joey? That's a lot, okay? And especially for business owners who are involved in the business on a day-to-day basis, and especially if you've got kids on top of that, I understand it can be hard, all right? But just know that that's your benchmark. If you can do 3 a week, that is ideal. You do not want to do more than 3 a week, because that starts to over-inundate your readers. People start to feel like, wow, this guy again? It just becomes too much. And you probably see this if you follow any blogs or if you're on Facebook. Some individuals or businesses have a tendency to post like 6 or 7 times a day. And after a while, you're like, well, okay, thanks for getting in touch, but this is the 8th time today. I had an issue with this with Levi's. I love Levi's, but they posted so many times in social media that I unliked them. All right. 3 is a good magical number because you can have days in between where people don't hear from you. And also it's a key number for Google where they're saying, wow, all right, we've got a nice amount of fresh content coming through here. 3 times a week, that's excellent, good job, all right? And what that fresh content does is improve the authority or the credibility of your website with Google, okay? I'm not gonna get into the geeky details, although I would enjoy it. I would probably give everybody else a headache. But just know that when you blog, Google sees that as fresh content. And that's one of the contingencies Google's looking for. They're looking for fresh content on your website and your blog. But changing content all the time on your website is a mistake. It is a mistake. So do it on your blog. And Google will see it and give you the credit and make it a little easier for you to get found. Okay? So let's say you're like most people who fit into the boat where 3 times a week is just way too much. Well, 2 is better than 3, and 1 is better than none. So what I'm really saying is, if at all possible, to make this effective, to gain more readership, to gain more authority or credibility with Google, which in turn means you're going to get seen more and get read more, you really need to blog at least 1 time per week. Okay? That's the minimum amount of fresh content that we want to be pushing through. If you do less, you will see, I don't want to say inaccurate, you will see non-optimal results. Okay? And think of it, it's just like a muscle. You know, if you exercise your muscle consistently week after week, it's going to get strong, and then it's going to get stronger, right? But if you do it, well, I did it on Monday, the first Monday of the month, and then I did it the last Wednesday of the month. Well, okay, every time you exercise, you get that same horrible feeling that, wow, I'm really out of shape. Same thing with your blog. The good news is what you'll find is that when you discipline yourself to blog once a week, blogging gets easier. Just like lifting that weight, right? When you're training, when you're exercising, you're giving yourself that much more strength of your mind, your thought process, your eye seeing, well, gee, you know, I did this last time, maybe I'll do it this way this time. People reacted really well to this. I want to talk about that again. You start to gain momentum. just like serious steady training. Okay. So any questions so far about the content or the frequency? Just let me know. Go ahead and type into that chat on the right-hand side of your screen. So one more thing I want to let you guys know about is with frequency and length. One thing to keep in mind is that length and frequency both have an effect on where Google ranks you. Okay, it's not just one or the other, it's both of them. Okay, so a 1,000-word long blog post will have more value to Google than a 200-word one. I just want you to know that, but I don't want you to stress out over it. Because as we all know, if we're feeling pressure to write more, resistance comes into play, and then we actually wind up writing less. All right, so that's all I've got for blog post frequency and length. And I do want to talk about one more thing for content, and that's original content versus duplicate content. And some of you may be familiar with these terms, but they are exactly what they sound like. Original content is content that you have taken and written yourself, or had somebody who works with your organization write it for your blog. Okay, it's unique. Duplicate content is essentially, say, lifting a blog post from somewhere else and dropping it into your blog. What happens a lot of times is small business owners see a blog post that they like somewhere else and they want to share it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you cut it and essentially paste it in, you are creating a scenario where there's duplicate content. And Google may penalize you for that, okay? Or at the very least, they're going to notice it and they're going to say, hey, this is the same content as this guy over here did 2 months ago. So we're not going to give them a penalty, but we're not going to give them any credit for this blog post because it's a duplication of somebody else's, all right? And if you guys remember years ago, I remember this from grammar school and high school. Sometimes you'd get these duplicate forms, right? Like you had a top form and then that like bluish black sheet of ink and then a bottom form, and sometimes they were triplicate. So that's what duplication is like, and Google notices it. So the question is then, well, what do I do if I do find some content that I want to share? Well, there is a very good, easy answer. Take the first paragraph of it, or even better, make a summary paragraph that you've written yourself of what that is, and put a link, a legitimate link to that post saying, hey, check out Joey's post on user experience. It was really good. He talks about this Dollar Shave Club, and it really helped me do X, Y, and Z. And by the way, here's my opinion on user experience. You might talk about what you learned, or you might be talking about what you've done that maybe wasn't in that article that I wrote. Okay, maybe there's something you want to add as an addendum to it, right? So now what we've done, we're still highlighting somebody else's post, giving them credit for it, but we have made our post an original. All right, so now we're going to get credit for it with the search engines, but we're also going to get credit from the human eye when they look at it and say, oh, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. You know, in my case, I showed a lot of pictures from Dollar Shave Club, but every single word on that page is a word that came from my brain and how I discern what their user experience means to me and why it's so darn good. Okay? And just remember, you know a lot more than you're probably giving yourself credit for. So if you are wondering, well, what the heck do I talk about? Think about the things that you talk about with your clients and customers every day. All right, I have one customer, I had a long-term customer who was a dental office. They had multiple dental offices. And it was amazing the amount of content that we could talk about. Dental fear. You know, what makes our dentist better? Authentic, true things as to why you're going to have a better experience here, whether it's the pain-free or whether it's just how you're treated, okay? And this goes on and on and on. Things you talk about with your clients, with your customers every day. This is what people are searching for as well when they're not face-to-face with you. Just a quick reminder that we do have chat open. If anybody has a question, click on the chat bubble in the upper left-hand corner of your web browser. And then you'll see on the right-hand side, your chat will open. Feel free to ask questions, comments, whatever you need as we go along. It's a lot harder to keep the workshop more like a dialogue because we're not in the same room. But I really want you guys just to feel free to ask anything at all, even if it's something we talked about 20 minutes ago. All right? So I'm going to take you guys back to my blog for just a moment. We talked already about search engine optimization, but I want to give you guys a little bit more of a global view as to what it is and why it's important. Because most people hear SEO or search engine optimization and instant headache, right? But in human language, what search engine optimization does is it's a tool. It's a process, okay, or a strategy that helps you connect with people who are searching for what you do on the web. All right, and I want to give you a real-world example here so there's no question as to what I'm talking about. So let's say I've got a new business, I've got a budget, I've got customers, but I don't have a website. Or I have a website, even better, but I don't have any search engine optimization on my website. So I come here and you guys see I've highlighted the URL and I type SEO Madison, Wisconsin, or even SEO Madison. Let's keep it super simple. And we get our normal search results, right guys? Couple of ads up here. And as we scroll down, this is a Google My Business, okay? We do workshops about that too. If you're not familiar with this, they're free and they're super helpful. So if you want to go to the Cup SEO website and look at the webinar tab, you can sign up for that anytime. But this, you see, I'm showing up here. But I'm also showing up, oh goodness, I dropped today. These fluctuate on a daily basis. Here I am at the bottom of page 1. And the reason why I'm here, or to give you a better example, if we put SEO Madison, Wisconsin, see I'm first here, and then I'm also it was 4th yesterday. This can be very confusing. I'm sorry, guys. So what got me here was optimizing my web pages with keyword phrases that have to do with search engine optimization in Madison, Wisconsin. To give you another example, my blog, Daddy Brain. And I don't blog nearly ever anymore, but I've got almost 200 blog posts up there. If I put in the phrase Daddy Brain, you guys can see I come up second in all of the world search. So the keywords that we use, like in this case, user experience, UX, throughout our blog post, is what tells Google, hey, I'm a good match for this person who searched for user experience or SEO or bakery. Another good example is, if I'll show you guys, this is a website that I optimized a while back, Lane's Bakery. And all I did was search for bakery, right? But that happened to be one of the top keyword phrases for this company. And we come up first in all of the bakeries in Madison, Wisconsin. So this really is a good example of the power of optimizing your blog and your website with really good, relevant keyword phrases. Does anybody have any questions about search engine optimization? All right, so you guys are doing great. We're at the 1 hour mark. We have a few things to talk about still. And these are more strategies. And the first strategy I want to talk about with you is scheduling your blog posts. It's kind of hard to know when you first start blogging, like what's the best time of day to publish a blog post? And what if I write one on Monday? Or even better, what if I write 2 on Monday and I want to post one right away and then I want to post one on Wednesday or Thursday? Can I do that? And the answer is yes. So to address the first question, when should I post? As you gain a following, you might be able to start to track and see morning posts get more traffic than evening posts. You may or may not know until you actually start blogging. But a typical good rule of thumb is that if you're blogging and trying to attract other businesses, it's a better idea to blog earlier in the day. All right. If you're looking to attract individuals, then day is still good, but sometimes nighttime is better, evening. My philosophy typically is just, if you got it done, put it out there and don't stress over it until you start to see a trend. So with Daddy Brain, I used to see trends because I used to get hundreds upon hundreds of hits on a day. So I started testing. And I would blog and publish it at 10 a.m. Then I'd try noon, 2 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And what I found was that the evening ones had a better trend, more opens right away as soon as it published. So how do you schedule a post? I will show you. So let's get back to our edit screen. And guys, just so you see how I'm going to get to that, up here is my navigation. This shows that I am logged in to my website and blog. And then at the bottom of this blog post, I've got an edit button. Which is going to bring me to my edit screen. Okay. And you guys will see right up here is a lot of very useful tools. And to actually schedule one, we'll need to look at a blog post that hasn't been published yet. Okay. And I'll take you through this whole process. I'll show you all of this stuff in this tab so you guys feel comfortable. So what I'm going to do to create a new post is go right up here to the plus sign where it says new. And then I'm going to click on post. And what we're going to find is a blank slate or a blank canvas for those of you that are creative. Now I can enter my blog title. Let's just call it the Blogging 101 test. In this case, blogging and blogging 101 are both good keyword phrases. And in here, I'm just going to put some gibberish because it's the only time I get to do that. And so now you guys, on the right-hand side here, you'll see I can save this as a draft. This will not be seen by anybody but me, but it does save it so I can go back to it and work on it more at a later time. If I click on the preview button, it will actually show me what my blog post looks like. Gibberish, just like we thought. Okay. So you can kind of toggle back and forth between this. So as you're adding images, as you're adding content, if you want to see how it looks or how long it is, you can always click on the preview button, okay, and go ahead and take a look at that. Again, this is not live. This is only for my eyes. So now we've got some other lines down here that we can look at. We've got the draft line that's showing us currently how this is saved. And if I click edit, you'll see there are a couple of different options, draft or pending review. And pending review is typically only used like sometimes when I'm working with a client, they might want to see it first before they publish it. Or say you've got a coworker or a direct report writing your blog post, but you want to make sure they're just right before they go live. You would click pending review, and then you would look at it before it got published. Okay. So now we're done looking at this. I just go ahead and click OK. I didn't change anything. Visibility can also be changed. You might want to have internal only documents or documents that you share with certain partners. Maybe somebody is part of an affiliate program with you, or somebody's a freelancer that you want them to see some information, but not the general public. You can make it private by clicking on private. You can make it password protected. So only team members that are authorized to see it can actually see it. In most cases, most bloggers want their blog public. So we'll click on that. If it's something, let's say it's a blog post from a month ago, but it's still super relevant, and you want it to be at the top of your feed, you click on this, stick this post to the front page. And what that does is that takes your blog post, and no matter where it is, say it's the 10th blog post on this list, right? Let's say it's this one. We've been talking about this one all day. If I set this to stick to the top, it will instantly move and be the first thing people see when they click on my blog tab over here. Okay? It will not be the first thing they see if they see my highlight of Tom on Facebook, they'll come straight to this. But if they click on that blog tab, that UX will be, the blog post will be on top. Okay, so that's how that works. This is nice if you have, let's say, a recurring webinar or workshop. So, and you blog about it, but maybe you don't want to write a new blog post about it every time. You just want to change the dates. This is a nice way to handle that. You change the dates, you stick this post to the front page, and it pops right up to the top. Okay. We are going to click cancel and get out of there. Now here is where we're going to schedule. Okay, guys, it's like a little calendar here. Right now this is set to publish immediately. And again, if I click on the edit button, this is going to look a lot like what you would see on Facebook, or if you guys schedule social media on Hootsuite or Sendable or one of those types of services. I can pick the month. Okay, I can pick the date. I can pick the year. Side note, I have never posted anything more than a couple of months in advance. But it's interesting to think about that, hey, I could actually come in here and set up a blog post for the year 2020. It's kind of scary. And then over here, after the @ sign, I can actually choose the time. So let's say you guys have tested, let's say you've done 30 blog posts and you really have come to learn that 10 a.m. is the very best time for you to blog. You can actually set that here, all right? And it will post at 10 a.m. There are some things you might have to do in your settings to make sure that this is Central Standard Time, that it understands whether it's AM or PM. We won't different for every theme. But if you're ever in a pinch and you're confused, you can always send me an email or give me a call. And if I can give you an answer, I'll be happy to. Because usually it's a super quick answer. So that's how we publish. So, you know, if it's easier for you to write 4 blog posts in one day and say, okay, I've got my month covered, you could do that, and you could just plan it out to release it whatever day you like. Publicize here is something I'm not going to get too into with you guys, but you can, as you can see, you can link your blog to all of these social media outlets. I prefer to do this manually or through something like Hootsuite. Usually presents itself better on the social media platform. But just know this is here. And this is something that if you don't want to be bothered with social media, hook it up once and it'll push it through automatically for you. Finally, down here, this SEO, not applicable. This is something that if you want, this will help you discern whether or not you've been using the keyword phrases in the right spots, okay, in the blog post. It won't tell you what the best keyword phrases are to use, but it will help you just figure out, hey, am I using them all in the right places? Okay. Now, let's say if I was ready to just publish this now, I'd click the publish button. If I had set this to publish on the 22nd, let's say, now you see this publish button change to schedule. All right, and that will toggle back if I come back in here and change it to today, which is the 19th. Goes back to publish. All right, so we've covered this whole area. And guys, these, you can toggle these if you don't want to look at them. If they bother you, you can go in and out of them. Same with categories. Same with tags. Okay, same with featured image if you have it. So a quick synopsis of where you're going to want to put these keyword phrases. And again, we've talked about this, but I'd rather review it with you. It's going to be in your headline. It's going to be in your images. You want to rename those images. Super important. It's going to be in your body copy. And when possible, you're going to want to put it in your H3s. Okay. I didn't do it here, but that was a choice. Typically, I will. We also want to put it down here in, sorry guys. We also want to put it down here in our text links. Okay, so a better example of that, we go back to that user experience one. Down here, the text link says, contact Cuppa SEO to set up a complimentary consultation. So SEO is a keyword. It's a secondary keyword for this particular blog post. But you can also see up here, even in what I've italicized, I've got UX in there. So what you're really doing here is threading your keywords through all of the document. And if you don't know what the right keywords are, and you have no inclination to learn, the best advice I could give you is, one, hire somebody else to make a keyword report for you. So you have that playbook that you can access day after day for all of your online interactions. Or use your common sense, okay? If you are a bakery, use the word bakery. If you're a local bakery, put the town and put the state you're in. Try and get it as relevant as possible. So they may not be the very best phrases, but at least if you have some phrases that are weak, a weak phrase is certainly better than no phrase. All right. So we've got a question from Peg. Are there other blogging software programs? Yes, there are. WordPress is by far the most popular. And one of the reasons for that is that it's super easy to use. But another reason is that it's integrated into any WordPress website you create has a blog function that can be turned on. It's a less expensive way to set up a website and blog, and it's also super easy to use. Another one is called Blogger, B-L-O-G-G-E-R. There used to be a lot more. So you can do a Google search on that if you want. But if you're thinking about having a website associated with your blog, I highly recommend going with WordPress. It will give you the most variance in options as to what things will look like. And it'll also give you a better user experience when you're actually writing blog posts. So next up, I want to talk with you guys about blog campaigns. And I have a lot of customers that want to blog for themselves that come to these workshops, and they say, Joey, you know, I'm a little bit, I feel like it's daunting to think about even writing one blog post a week. And it can add stress, right, to your day, to your to-do list. And I have a solution for that. And it's called a blog campaign. And a blog campaign is exactly what it sounds like. And it's typically a one-page document that you will create, okay? So a month in advance. So let's say I was working on my blogs for December. I might sit down today and say, okay, how many weeks in there are there in December? So I think that's got 5. I'll need 5 blog posts. So I already know I have that finite number, 5. Okay, it's less ambiguous. Then the next question is, well, what do I want to write about? But there's no pressure, okay, because it's for next month. So I might jot down some ideas as to the different things I want to write about. As I come up with the ideas, I write a working title, a working headline, which can often become your actual headline. Doesn't mean you have to change it if it's a good one. And then I'll write 2 or 3 sentences describing essentially the main point or the main topic of the post, or you can write a beginning, middle, and an end. So in other words, you know, this blog post is about showing people how to use optimal user experience best practices. We're going to use Dollar Shave Club as our example, and we're going to show 4 different screenshots that show people what it is that's so good about this user experience. So that's one way to do it, or you might just write like a little mini Cliff Notes synopsis. Again, this comes down to what works best for you, which you might not know until you do this for a month or 2, okay? So now I've got my title, I've got my synopsis, and if you're feeling like you want to go further with it, if you are going to need to do some research, you can go ahead and do that at that time also, and drop in any links that you might need to cite later on or to refer to for facts, okay? Now you have got a blog proposal. Save it, put it away, and you don't have to worry about it. Now the first week of December comes and you say, oh boy, I've got to write my blog post for this week. You don't need to worry about what you're going to blog about. You have already documented it. And I cannot tell you how many people have tried this process. People who could not blog for anything, for various reasons, but mostly because they did not have a process. They are blogging once a week now. One of my clients, who is very kind, she's always telling everybody, she took the workshop a couple of times. Her name is Nancy. And Nancy has been blogging. I think she's got like 30 blog posts done week after week. And when she started, she felt like, how am I going to do this? But we set up a process. So part of that process is actually setting aside time, booking time on your schedule as if you were going to meet with a client or a customer. Give yourself an hour. And that hour is for creating my blog campaign, my blog proposal. I sit down, I come up with my ideas, And hey, if you come up with 10 ideas, great. You've just given yourself more that you can write about. But really just figure out, how many do I need for next month? What do I want to write about? Title, quick synopsis. That makes a world of difference, because when you sit down next month to write about it, you've given your brain a chance to percolate and form opinions, and you'll find that you've kind of written it already quite often. Part of the process is also, just like you set time aside on your schedule to write the proposal, you're also going to want to schedule time to write that blog post. To start, give yourself an hour or an hour and a half, and then you can judge, well, it took me less, it took me more. But if you're pretty comfortable writing, it's probably going to take you at least an hour to write the blog post. All right? Schedule it. Treat it with the same respect you would another person. And you will see your blogging transform from something that's a stress to something that you get really good at. I want to open up the floor to questions at this time. We've got about 9 minutes left. And we're doing really good. Thanks to all you guys for hanging in there. I know this is a long workshop with a lot of information. I will be, on that note, I will be sending you guys a thank you email later today that's got a link to a free Blogging 101 book, okay? It's going to contain a lot of the concepts we talked about today. It's also going to dive into a little bit more technical stuff here and there, but it's a good overview of a lot of the materials we discussed. And again, that's complimentary. There's no strings attached. I will send you the link later today in an email. If you don't get it, Peg, I know you had some problems with email. If you don't have it by the morning, just shoot me an email and we'll make sure we get that to you, okay? So I want to make sure you knew about that. So other than blog campaigns, there are 3 more things that I want to make you guys aware of. And this is going to be some high-level stuff, kind of a global view. What is the role of blogging in social media? The role of blogging in social media is that you get to share your thoughts, your expertise, your content with your Facebook and your LinkedIn and your other social media outlets, as opposed to saying, hey, I found this really cool article on Joey's site. Hey, feel free to share my stuff. I'm okay with that. But it's got a lot more value if you're sharing with your followers about you and what you're doing and what you're thinking of, okay? So here's kind of how it works. You write the blog post, and then you share it on your social media outlets. So like my one for user experience, I forget exactly what I said, but I asked a provocative question, something like, are you effectively connecting with your viewers with a good user experience? Something like that. And then I put a photo, one of the photos that I used on the blog post, on my social media post, and then of course a link that goes directly to that social media, to that blog post, all right? So when I publicize one of my webinars, some of you may have seen this, it's the webinar art, and then it's a link directly to that webinar page. So now you're creating an organic process where people are seeing you on social media, and that which is bringing traffic to your website. You're developing that relationship with those viewers, and you're also upping your authority with Google at the same time in a legitimate, authentic, relevant way. So everybody wins. Your whole website gets a boost, your viewers get more information, and you get credibility points with the human eye as well, because people see you more as the expert that you are. All right? So, and that's a very high level view of social media. But the mistake a lot of people make, because they don't have their own content, is they share other people's stuff. And one of the biggest things that you can do as a business owner is become a thought leader in your industry. okay? And you probably already are. It's just about having the courage to share this information. Next, I want to give you guys a quick look at something called site stats. Because once you start getting traffic on your blog, it's always nice to know who's showing up, where they're going, what topics are trending, what topics really people don't seem to care about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on dashboard. Okay, so you'll see your company name, dashboard. And again, this is going to be different depending on your theme. But my site stats are included in Jetpack. And when we click on them, it's going to give us a nice, beautiful graph that's going to show site stats by day, by week, or by month. Okay, which is super neat. So you guys see here, here's my bar. This is by day. So 2 days ago, I had 41 hits. Yesterday, I had 45. So far today, I have 29. Okay. And you can break this out again over here, guys. You see by weeks and months as well. If I scroll down, I'll see that, wow, 9 people came to my website today off of a social media post. Here it is in action, guys. You can actually see right here that there was a Facebook post that included a link back to my website. 9 people came through. That's pretty cool. So over here, you guys see these are little tabs that can be opened. I want to open that up, and now it shows me where all my traffic went. So 15 people came through to the Fresh Brewed Customer Spotlight about Tom Cleese, who does campus planning, college planning for high school students and their families. But you can see how many people came to the home page, how many people clicked on my blog tab, the about page, and so on. All right. Down here, we'll show how many people clicked from one of my pages to go to another website. And you see 2 people read my article about Tom and went to his website, which is what I want. I did that because I want to highlight him. But you guys can see kind of like the organic circle here where social media feeds the blog feeds the website, and then I'm also highlighting somebody else. It's a very organic process this way. So what's really nice about this is, and if I go to summaries, it'll give us even more data. If I'm sitting down and saying, well, what should I write about next month, right? I might want to look at the last quarter and see what blog post had the most traction. Google My Business webinar did really well, but that's not a blog post. My family road trip and the analog user experience, that did pretty well. The ultimate user experience, Dollar Shave Club did pretty well over the past 3 months. And I can kind of see trends just from looking at this. So that's site stats. Not all blogs have site stats built into them. If yours doesn't, there is a way to do what's called a plugin, and it's free, that will get those site stats in there for you. It's usually pretty easy if you just Google how to do it. But if you do have a web developer working with you, you can ask them to take care of it. So guys, we have about a minute left, and I would like to take an opportunity just to thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to talk with you and hopefully help you get a better understanding of blogging and also get more comfortable with the process. And just to reiterate, I will be sending you guys that link tonight. So you'll have that Blogging 101 ebook to look at. It's going to reinforce a lot of the learnings that we explored today. If you have any more questions that I haven't answered, feel free to send me an email. Always happy to sit and have a cup of coffee. And that's really it. I just want to thank you so much for joining Cup SEO today. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much, guys.